boys and girls. Welcome once again to Ms.Etta's Academic Corner. Yay! And we have with us our buddies that are always with us. Judah Sr. I see you. And Judah Jr. I see you too. Thanks, guys. Let's have a seat. We're going to get rolling on this book. We have a reading. Let's read. Reading is fun. The more we read, boys and girls, the more it becomes fun. The more we read, boys and girls, the easier it becomes. The more we read, boys and girls, the more we understand. So let reading be your friend, because you will need it in reading, social studies, mathematics, arithmetic, whatever you call it, science. You need it when you graduate. You need it when you get a job. You need it when you have money in the bank. You need it when you go to the grocery store. Your reading is something we need. So let's have some fun with one of our favorite characters, Curious George. Now, remember, usually we've seen Curious George with the book is yellow. But remember, we've said before, most of them are yellow, but some are blue and some are red. This is a blue one. It's still soft and still has the color yellow in it. Red is in it. Green is in it. Sand is in it, like a sandy beige, and brown. A little silver color. So this is Curious George and the dump truck. You know what a dump truck is? That truck that has like garbage in the back, dirt in the back, and it dumps it out. Okay? So now, what is Curious George going to do with a dump truck? We're going to find out. Now, this book, like a lot of Curious George's books, says bonus activities inside. In the back, there's one. It has two pictures, and you have to spot the difference between the two. So usually, something is in one picture, but it's missing in the other picture. Oh, this one says there are 8 differences. Real quick, I can see 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. So real quick, I see 7. The 8th one, I would have to stare. Some of you might want to say you want to see it. Okay. Get up close. Can you see the differences? Remember, one picture has something that the other picture doesn't. Or in other words, one picture is missing stuff that the other picture has. Usually they'll tell us to look for 5, but this one has 8. I found 7 real quick. I'm not going to tell you what they are because you might get the book. Okay, inside the back, there's another activity. This activity is a crossword puzzle. And in order to find the words that go into this crossword puzzle, you would have to read the book. And the words in the book would show up in your crossword puzzle. So if you like to do crossword puzzles, this is a fun way. And guess what? Doing crossword puzzle help you learn vocabulary words. So you learn new words. It reminds you of words you already know. So Curious George and the Dump Truck is written by Margaret and H.A. Rays, illustrated in the style of H.A. Ray by Viper Interactive. And remember, illustrated means the person that drew the pictures in the book. This is George. He lived with his friend, the man with the yellow hat. He was a good little monkey and always very curious. This morning, George was playing with his toys when he heard a funny noise outside. So he's playing and he heard something outside. What do you do when you hear a strange noise or a different noise and you're playing? You would look, right? So it sounded like a quack, and George was curious. What could be quacking underneath his window? It was a duck. Quack, 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 of course. Then George heard another quack, 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 and then another. So the duck was making a quacking sound. Why, it was not just one duck. It was a mother duck and 5 small ducklings. So baby ducks are called ducklings. Say it with me. Ducklings. Ducklings. Ducklings were something new to George. How funny they were. He watched the ducklings waddle after their mother. Waddle is like walking side to side. Where were they going? George was not curious for long. Soon he was waddling after Mother Duck too. Now he could see where they were going. So George left his house through the window, and he's following the duck, the mother duck, and the 5 ducklings, the baby ducks. And you see they're crossing the street. The boy in the bicycle is waiting for them to cross. That's good. Good manners. They look like they're going to a park. The ducks waddled all the way to the park. See that? Sometimes we can guess what's going to happen by looking at the pictures. George loved the park. Today he saw children flying kites and gardeners planting trees by the pond. Then George saw something he never seen in the park before. What could it be that George saw? These 2 pictures have a lot going on. We see some men working. We see water. We see kites up in the sky flying. Excuse me. We see some kids. We see the dump truck. We see trees. We see a house. We see a lot going on. We see trees laying down, trees standing up. We see ducks, 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 ducks. It's a lot going on here. It was a dump truck, and it was big. In fact, George was not even as tall as one wheel. George forgot all about the ducklings and stopped to look. So he was more interested in the dump truck. It would be fun to sit in such a big truck, thought George. I don't think that's a good idea. George don't have a driver's license. No one was inside the truck, and the window was wide open. George could not resist. Boys and girls, don't ever get behind the wheel of a car without your parents' permission, without your parent, and without a driver's license. So you are too young. But George decided he's going to get in the truck, because he could see himself, imagine himself behind the wheel. So George hopped in. He was too small. If only there was something to climb on. But sitting in a big truck was not so fun for a little monkey after all. George could not even see out the window. Would this make a good step for a monkey? So George sees these pedals sticking out and decides maybe he could step on them and look out the window. Not a good idea. Those are there for a reason. Here, it said right here, it did. Now George could see out the window. He saw grass and trees and a family eating a picnic. Family eating at a picnic. Suddenly, George heard a low rumbling sound. Was it his stomach rumbling? He wondered. It had been a long time since breakfast. I don't think that's George's stomach. But the rumbling was not coming from George's stomach. What could be making that sound? Let's try to guess before we turn the page. Come on, take a guess. Okay, let's see if you're right. It came from the back of the truck. George was curious. He climbed out of the window. Then, like any monkey can, he swung upon the top of the truck. Now he could take a look. He saw the truck was filled with dirt. George was excited. What could be better than a truck full of dirt? George jumped right in the middle of it, sitting on top of the dirt. George felt the truck bed begin to tilt. Now the truck is getting rid of the dirt. George decides to jump on top of the dirt. So if the dirt's going out the truck, then where's George going? Come on, take a guess. That's right. It tilted higher and higher, and the dirt began to slide. It was sliding right into the pond, and George slid with it. George was having fun, but the pile in the pond got bigger and bigger and bigger, and soon the fun was gone. It was fun at first, but the dirt kept going out of the truck, and more dirt was filling up the pond, and it was getting closer and higher to George. Just when the gardeners came back from lunch and stood with their mouths wide open, they saw the empty dump truck, the pile of dirt in the pond, and a very muddy monkey. They knew what just happened. But before they could say a word, George heard a familiar sound. So while the workers was at lunch break, George had his accident with the truck. Remember when he was standing on those things? That made the truck move back. He heard some quacking. The gardeners heard it too. Then they heard people laughing. Look, said a girl, the ducks have their own island. Indeed they did. The pile of dirt made an island in the pond, and Mother Duck and all her ducklings were waddling right on top of it. Remember, the ducks was in the pond. They crossed the street and they went in the pond. So now that the dirt was in the pond, they jumped on top of the dirt. So everybody thought that was cute, that it looked like they had their own island. George was sorry he had made such a mess, but the gardeners didn't seem to mind. We were planting more trees and flowers to make the park nicer for people, said one of the gardeners, but you made the park nicer for the ducks too. Later, a small crowd gathered at the pond. Would you like to help me feed the ducks? A girl asked George. George was delighted. Soon everyone was enjoying the park more than ever before, including the ducks, who was happiest of all in their new home. So everybody was a win-win. The ducks had a new home on top of the dirt. Everybody thought it was fun. So the workmen thought it was great because they was making the park better for everybody. So everybody had a good time at the park. The workmen, the children, the ducks, Curious George. And so this is the end of the story, where you see the park fixed up real nice, and the man in the yellow hat and George was walking together. So that's the way it goes, boys and girls. Make sure you ask permission before you get in any open vehicle, truck, car. And we'll see you next week at what? Ms. Etta's Academic Corner.